Hello and welcome to Recruiter Mommy's video on difficult questions to answer during job interviews. The first question we'll address is the infamous "tell me about yourself." Even though we all know that this question is most likely going to come up, we still find that one hard to address and we get thrown off. The best way to address "tell me about yourself" is by referring to professional rather than personal history. So an ideal way to address that would be a short introduction quantifying the amount of experience you've had in a certain field, and then what you see yourself as doing next. So, for example, I'm a professional recruiter since 2008. I've worked within the healthcare, IT, sports, legal industries, and as the next step, I see myself taking on more managerial responsibilities. Keep in mind, of course, that whatever you point out as the progression that you're looking for should be within the confines of the job description that you're interviewing for. Now, I know that I said you should only talk about professional experience and background, unless your personal experience is somehow relevant for the position that you're interviewing for. By that I mean, for example, let's say that you're interviewing for a job within the nonprofit sector. However, you've never held a position within that sector, but you did volunteer with a charity organization privately. So you can always rely on that personal experience. The next question we're going to discuss is the dreaded weaknesses. This one obviously is also a difficult one. As an interviewee, I've often found myself debating, do I divulge the truth and hope that the recruiter or employer appreciates that I was being honest? Or do I go with a more generic cop-out, so to speak, response? As a recruiter, I can tell you that recruiters and employers appreciate an honest answer. However, there are still some things that you should take into consideration. Being honest is great. However, in preparing for the job interview, you should look at the job description and identify the job keys. So those would always be listed as the skills or qualifications that the employer is looking for, and whichever ones are listed first. So for example, time management skills or organizational skills, these ones are the job keys. So never ever choose a weakness that is one of these keys, because that will obviously damage your chances of getting the job. Let me just elaborate on what I consider to be cop-out answers. These are the answers that you can find on Google when you Google "tell me about your weaknesses." So some that will certainly come up are, "I'm a perfectionist," or "I don't like saying no, so I just say yes to any type of task that is delegated to me." Try to be honest. However, again, keep in mind choosing something that is fairly neutral and that will not damage your chances of getting the job. So you can talk about a certain software that you're not familiar with, which is not one of the job keys. You can talk about wanting to acquire knowledge in another language, or you can even take a risk and talk about something more personal. I've brought up in interviews before my being not a confrontational person, and if you bring up something like that, you should always show how you were able to overcome that weakness. That is a rule of thumb whenever discussing actually any weakness. Show either your ability to overcome that in the past, or a specific plan of how you intend to tackle that in the future. So if you talk about a software that you don't know, which may be beneficial for the job that you're interviewing for, talk about taking tutorials. but be very specific. Point out which tutorials you found online. Finally, a question a lot of us find difficult to answer. Tell me about a mistake you've made in the past. So again, my suggestion would be to be honest, to address that the same way you would a weakness, in terms of showing how you were able to overcome that mistake, or how this may have been a mistake on the first round, and then how when you came back and were faced with a similar situation, how you've handled that differently. The lesson that you've learned, if you will. And one thing that the mistake cannot be related to, once again, obviously, are those job keys, as well as it cannot be anything related to costing the company money or time. And now if we reverse that and talk for just a quick second about accomplishments or strengths, this is definitely something that you should always incorporate into the interview. Whenever you feel like you found a way to save an employer time or money, you found a way to make a process more efficient, definitely incorporate that into the conversation. That completes our session on difficult questions to answer. I am open to answering any of your questions, difficult as they may be. You can find me on Facebook. Just look for Recruiter Mommy. My website is www.recruitermommy.com. Currently on Facebook, I answer all of your questions. You can post them on my wall. I'll respond to all of them. And remember to like my page. Thanks so much. Come back to us next time when we talk about things that you should definitely not tell your recruiter on the phone. Thanks. Bye.